Herbert Ross, Neil Simon, and Walter Matthau make a good team. You've got a good director, writer, and actor. Their latest adventure is a film called I Ought to Be in Pictures, a comedy about a young girl who leaves Brooklyn to go to Hollywood to see her father, whom she hasn't seen in 16 years. The young girl is played by Dinah Manoff, cute, cuddly, gutsy, and blunt. Her father, played by Walter Matthau, is a not-too-successful Hollywood screenwriter. Matthau is again hilarious in his role. His walk is even funny. He can do more with one look than 10 lines of dialogue. He wakes up one morning disoriented, groggy, to find this young girl sitting at his kitchen table. Is he a little confused and stunned? I would say so.
Steffi's niece?
No.
Come on, kid, don't play games. It's too early. Who? Libby who?
Libby Tucker.
Libby Tucker.
Libby Gladys Tucker, Blanche's girl.
Oh, Blanche's girl. It all comes back to him now. The film doesn't dwell on why Matthau left his wife and kids 16 years before. And that's good because it doesn't matter why he left. This picture is about the reunion after all that time, of getting back together. It's about love, developing, maturing, guilt, and responsibility. Manoff uses the excuse of seeing her father by saying she wants to get into the movies. But we know what she's really there to do. She's there to get to know her father, to try and fill those 16 empty years for which he wasn't there. After their relationship gets off to a shaky start, things begin to click. One of the main problems is Matthau himself. He's a lazy guy, can't seem to get into writing anymore. He's deep into gambling debts and doesn't want to fully commit himself to his girlfriend, played by Anne Margaret. She's nice, helpful, and cares about Matthau and his daughter. After a while, Matthau begins to shape up. It's obvious he cares for his daughter and wants to help her.
I'm going to get up at 6:30 in the morning and make you breakfast. You like waffles?
You can make waffles? What kind of waffles?
I don't know. I just pop them in the toaster.
I like those kind of waffles myself. Oh well. I Ought to Be in Pictures reeks of cuteness. It's a warm-hearted comedy that tugs at both your heart and laugh strings. Even though you know where the film is going, it doesn't stop you from enjoying the trip. Matthau, as I said earlier, is superb. He can be funny without really trying. Manoff first appeared to be forcing her character and lines, but she finally loses those characteristics. Anne Margaret, as the studio hairdresser, is level-headed, caring, fine in the part. With Herbert Ross's direction, Neil Simon's writing, and good acting from all, I Ought to Be in Pictures ought to be seen. I'm Dean O'Lally. Director Sidley Lumet does a wonderful job of bringing Ira Levin's Broadway success to the screen. Death Trap contains plot twists and turns that keep you engaged and entertained. The film is highlighted with a very good cast such as Michael Caine, Dyan Cannon, Christopher, former Superman Reeve, and Irene Worth. Let's start with Michael Caine, shall we?
Yes.
Thank you. Caine plays a successful playwright, Sidney Brough, but he's got problems. His latest mystery play is a bomb. As one critic put it, there was more drama in the fight for cabs outside the theater than there was on stage. It's pretty bad. So now, scared of failure, his reputation and pride at stake, Caine can do two things. Live off his rich wife's money, who, by the way, is played by Dyan Cannon and has a heart condition, or he can try and write another play. But he begins to think of other sinister alternatives. A former student of his, Clifford Anderson, played by Christopher Reeve, has written a perfect play and has sent it to Caine. He starts thinking of bumping off the student and then putting his own name on the script.
I think that you're thinking that after last night you actually would kill to have another hit play.
Do you know what this play would net its author in today's market? Between $3 and $5 million. And that is without the Death Trap t-shirts.
And that's not including TV rights, hats, and a lot of other things. Anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about the basic plot. Believe me, it gets better. The film keeps you intrigued. Let's take a look at one scene. Here, Chris Reeve meets Michael Caine. While he's there, Caine puts Reeve in a pair of handcuffs and then conveniently cannot find the key. Reeve tries to trick Caine into unlocking the handcuffs.
So I hope you find the key pretty soon. Otherwise, you'll have to hold the phone for me.
How'd you get this number? Not listed.
I've had it for a long time. See, I got it from Mrs. Beecham at the university. I'm very friendly with her.
I hope she gave you the right number because we changed it a few weeks ago. What number did you give?
I think the number was 555-1212. Operators are standing by now. Excuse me, I got carried away. One of the best characters in Death Trap is a cool psychic, Olga Tindorf, portrayed by Irene Worth. She lives next door to Kane and Cannon. She's nosy and always comes around at the wrong time. As for the performances, at first I thought Michael Caine might be miscast in this role, but I quickly disregarded that idea. He's the one to watch in the film. He's smooth, suave, and adds spice to the already spicy and juiced up plot. Or should I say plots?
Yes.
All right. Dyan Cannon brings to her role energy, thoughtfulness, and a lively, spirited creativeness which adds to the film. Christopher Reeve shows he doesn't need to be in a cape to fly through a role. He's very good. Death Trap is fun, it's full of wit, it's twisting and turning all the time, keeping you surprised and entertained. I recommend Death Trap and hope you get a chance to see it. Am I right?
Yes.
What you are watching is a photo session for Tiger Beat. It's the nation's largest selling Hollywood-based teenage fan magazine. A session which will hopefully result in the creation of a new teenage idol. With a readership of about 95% female, the appeal of fan magazines is heavily romantic. Tiger Beat editorial director Sharon Lee explains what a fan magazine's purpose is.
It's an entertainment magazine for young girls to fulfill their fantasies and let them know all about the people they're interested in show business.
The barometer for the success for a teen idol lies here in the mailroom. The top teen idols receive anywhere from 250 to 350 letters per week.
It all depends on the mail, and whoever gets the most, that's the person we start writing about the most. They get to be on the cover. We try our best if we think there's a chance with somebody.
You've never had a teenage idol complain about what was written about him?
No, there have been times they have complained, but not really seriously, to the point where, you know, they never spoke to us again.
One such teen idol who did complain was Willie Ames, the young star of TV's 8 is Enough, and the soon-to-be-released film Paradise.
I dropped out of the magazines for quite a while. I had my little tiff with them, you know, and said, hey, look, I appreciate what you do for us. I really, you know, don't get me wrong, I do appreciate it, but if you're going to print something, print the truth. Just print what I say.
According to Sharon Lee, there's little distortion in the truth, even though that once was the practice. Today, the major problem a magazine faces is how to sustain the life of a teen idol. What kills a teenage idol?
Sometimes they don't want to be teen idols, and they want to go on to other things, so they put their own damper on it. The true fans, or they'll always remember that person, or they'll always like them, but it's not the
that's good.
excitement or the fire there anymore.
I'm Dean O'Lawley. Most people go to the movies pretty regularly. However, not all of them go to see what has become known as cult movies. These movies play in a few independently owned theaters, but they do have an audience.
A cult film is for a smaller audience, but it creates a much larger effect upon that audience. It isn't like we sit down and like target out an audience and tailor a film specifically for the audience. I'm just making the film that I enjoy making.
Well, we've never taken a survey, but I would say that generally our audience is younger, between the ages of, 18 to 40, let's say. And they're more adventurous moviegoers.
These audiences were responsible for turning the Rocky Horror Picture Show into a cult phenomenon.
There's no barrier between the audience and the screen. It's just like you're part of the movie.
You meet weird people. It's just like a chance to experience,
Exactly.
exotic lifestyle.
What really is a cult film?
It's outrageous by contemporary standards. It's offensive to many people. Other people get a sense of exhilaration from the humor, the music, and the satire. Some people get offended, and some people have a great time and come back and see it again. It has a smaller but very loyal, fanatical audience.
However, cult filmmakers do go on to direct mainstream movies.
I think that once a director gets plugged into the Hollywood system, he pretty much stays there. But as long as there are movies, there are going to be people that try to find things that slide between the cracks, as it were. And what lies in the cracks are the cult movies.
It's just a jump to the left. With your hands on your hips.
If you combine the movies Meatballs, American Graffiti, Animal House, and throw in more raunch, you'll get Porky's for an answer. Also, if you liked any of the films I just mentioned, then you'll probably find certain portions of Porky's funny. There's a handful, and I mean just a handful, of some very funny gags. But most of the time, I think the filmmakers were just trying to achieve new lows in rank jokes, lewd behavior, and bad taste. We've seen the basic thing before. A group of Florida youths in the 1950s are in search of let's see, how can I put this? They're looking for their first sexual. They want to get, they're looking for girls, okay? So that's what they're doing most of the time. The guys spy on the girls' locker room. They like practical jokes, filthy and otherwise. Like here in this scene, as in the rest of the movie, the butt of most of the jokes is a guy by the name of Pee-wee. Here the gang sets Pee-wee up for a joke with a guy named Meat.
Let me do Meat. You gotta let me do Meat. Come on, Timmy.
Okay.
Okay.
Now listen. The one in your left hand, that's the raw egg, okay? That's the one you drop. The one in your right hand, that's the hard-boiled egg. That's the one you hit him with.
Left hand raw, right hand smack him.
Go get him, Tiger.
Hi, Meat.
Hey, Pete, what's going on?
Oh, nothing.
Guys?
Hi.
Hey, watch it, man. Jeez, you know, what, he was psycho? What's with the eggs?
What eggs?
Those eggs.
These eggs?
Watch my lips. Those eggs.
These eggs?
What, is there an echo here?
Well, they're for you.
For me, what am I going to do with them?
Well, we thought you'd like to wear one today.
Morris, you're dead.
I know.
Yeah, Meat has the IQ about 2 grades below bean dip. Now, what about the title of the movie? How does that fit in with all this? Well, Porky's is the name of a redneck bar and strip joint where available women are known to hang out. Our little boys go out to Porky's looking for a good time, trouble breaks out, and revenge is the ultimate goal. There are 2 ways to take this movie. You can sit back, give in to it, and in that respect enjoy most of it. Or you can be offended by most of the goings-on and totally be turned off. As for me, I was about 20-80 on the percentage. 80% of it was too childish, imitative, and stupid. It's like a collection of dirty jokes made into a movie. I don't think it worked. The cast, though, sincerely tries to make things work. Most are relative newcomers. But generally speaking, Porky's is dorky. I'm Dean O'Lally. This new and different version of the 1942 thriller is at times absorbing, due not only to its cast, but to its director, Paul Schrader. He gives us an electrifying film, visually speaking. Cat People is at other times empty and distant, but those moments are luckily not too often. The story's premise is this. There's a certain group of people who are descendants from a strange ancient ritual. That ritual involved the breeding of women with cats. And now, when one of their own kind engages in sex, a physical transformation takes place. That person changes into a cat, a panther. Now, there's a big problem that accompanies that strange happening. Before he or she can become human again, they must kill. And so the end result tells us that it's relatively safe for the feline bunch to mate with people of their own kind. I know it's strange, but this is a film dealing with fantasy and horror. Natasha Kinski stars as the tormented and confused girl whose first real love in life brings her to the horrifying truth about her ancestors. She soon realizes her own destiny. Kinski is simply mesmerizing. She's perfect in the role. Malcolm McDowell is effective as her warped and psychotic brother. He's always trying to make a move on his sister. He tells her the truth about their people. She's reluctant to believe him. So to convince her, McDowell reminds Kinski of some of her childhood memories.
Do you remember when you were a child, the animals used to call your name? And you knew in the dark when the others were dreaming, and you could never get to sleep. No, I'm not. I'm not in love. What will you do? Will you leap through his hoop? take his head in your mouth like an egg. I need you.
Who are you? You're not my brother. Oh.
I bet in school she was great in gymnastics. Kinski goes to work in a Louisiana zoo. He falls in love with the zoo curator, played by John Hurd. The film revolves mainly around this love affair, and of course its consequences are at times tragic and confusing. Hurd is surprisingly good as the man who finally figures everything out. As I said earlier, the film lacks in some areas, mainly the script, but the success for Cat People lies in its strong cast and superb visual effects. I must warn you, parts of the film are quite graphic. There's a lot of blood and gore. It's very explicit. So be prepared as this horror fantasy takes you through its remarkable fascination. I'm Dean O'Lally. Personal Best has problems. First of all, Oscar-winning director Robert Towne makes his directorial debut. Most of his work in the film is impressive. Other parts of it are far less than adequate. Some scenes are worthless, useless, too long, and just boring. Second, the script is far below Towne's usual level of excellence. Third, the acting leaves a lot to be desired. Personal Best, I think, is the first major film to deal exclusively with female athletic competition. And it deals with the lesbian relationship of two track stars. They're played by Mariel Hemingway and Patrice Donnelly. Both are training for the 1980 Olympic trials. Their characters are believable, but not very well developed. Hemingway seemed lost in her portrayal. I think with a better director, her performance would have been much better. Patrice Donnelly, a former track star, technically not a professional actress, does a pretty good job in her role. The best performance in the movie is by Scott Glenn, portraying the girls' track coach. He's a strict, domineering coach who sees Hemingway's potential as a pentathlete. He also sees the problems her relationship is causing during her training. And problems is right. At first, Hemingway and Donnelly have a nice situation going there. They're roommates and both are trying to make it in the Olympics. But Donnelly causes an accident which cripples Hemingway for a season. Then more and more problems come out and arguments.
Either you move out or I move out, and we really are just friends.
No. No?
Oh, hell. Don't worry, we won't work out together.
No, that's not it. I want to work out with you. You make me feel like I can do something, like I'm gonna do something. More than Tingloff. I just...
What?
Need you.
She doesn't need her for long. Later, Hemingway forms a heterosexual love affair with a swimmer played by Kenny Moore. Personal Best is a disjointed adventure that I think most audiences will find confusing and boring. I can't recommend you see the picture.
Why not?
I've already told you why. The script is weak and the acting is a letdown. Towne's direction in the running sequences are beautifully done. Towne should at least be given a pat on the back for attempting to tell what is obviously the strict and rigorous world of women's athletics. The film was rated R for its language and nudity. Some scenes will offend a lot of people.
I don't think you can handle it.
I can handle anything but this movie. I'm Dean O'Lally.
I love him. I don't want anything to happen to him.
She doesn't want anything to happen to him.
Mike Gazzo was one of the villains in that clip from Disney's new film, Small and Fry. He says people never quite recognize a character actor when they meet him.
They think they met you in the Army, or they met you in the corner bar, or they met you at a dance, or they met you at a football game. They met you all over the world, you know. And then it finally dawns on them, you know, that you're an actor.
Dan Seymour has played the heavy in hundreds of films. After appearing in To Have and Have Not, he did manage to get a little recognition.
I start walking down the street, and all of a sudden, two sailors come after me, and they say, "You're the SOB. who pushed Bogart around in that picture, and they start pushing me against the window because they were mad at me because I had hurt Bogart.
Anthony Caruso has been the bad guy over 500 times. He describes what's fun about playing those really nasty characters.
You can scratch wherever you want, when you want, how you want. You can do anything you want.
According to Mike Gazzo, being famous isn't the only way to live on and on.
I've been strangled, stabbed, shot, eaten by crocodiles, turtles. As a matter of fact, I think when I pass on to the great beyond, I think my children will not believe that I'm gone because they've seen me die so many times. So, you know, I'll kind of live forever with my children.
When Epcot opens on October 1st of this year, it'll be a $1 billion showcase of the past, present, and future of mankind. It will cover 550 acres with exhibits using the latest technology. For example, the People Mover will be solar-powered, and in the Land Pavilion, experiments will be conducted in new methods of agriculture.
We're dealing with energy, and we're dealing with food, and we're dealing with transportation, and we're trying to tell people that there are reasons to be optimistic.
Author Ray Bradbury, who wrote the script for one of the Epcot exhibits, considers the project a kind of permanent World's Fair. Would Walt Disney recognize this version of his greatest dream? That's doubtful. It is not the self-contained futuristic village he had in mind.
It is a half of what he had in his mind. The rest of it is a civilized, humanizing city of the future, which is even more titanic. That's a huge thing to build.
We have a living community of perhaps 20,000 people, and the idea was to have companies come in and test their products in this kind of environment. So what we were saying, or are now saying with this project, is we think we can communicate and perhaps affect more people through the approach that we have taken here than was the original idea.
I'm Dean O'Lally. Why do you do what you do?
Oh, it's such a need, and no one there to do it. So few comedians, so many tragically sad people, I think. It's just entertainment of the masses and education, too, you know. Must uplift the spirit, uplift the intellect. It's my job, my burden. I must do it.
I understand you have a degree in chemical engineering.
Yes.
How did you get into comedy?
Well, there was such a need. So many engineers in engineering, so few in comedy.
The proportion was right. Is that...
Well, the need was there. You see, that's what it is to be an American. You must go out, and when you see a need, you go and do it. See, the communist countries tell you what to do. Instead, here you can choose it. Plus, there's a lot of bucks in this.
Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Do you think that far ahead, or do you want to get past the sneeze?
I think that in 10 years I'll be dead.
Oh, really?
Because I make jokes about people in the audience, and I can't see them real good, and there's a light in my eyes, and they're drunk.
I'm going to be in the audience tonight reviewing your act. Does that make you nervous at all?
No.
Okay.
Because I've seen your show.
Oh, I see. Well, this particular night, I saw his show. Gallagher said earlier in the interview that comedy was one of the biggest challenges a man could face, and denied he would have to overcome a couple of challenges. First of all, he had microphone problems.
Testing the mic, testing this mic. Listen, I ain't gonna do nothing till we get this mic. You're gonna vibrate this damn place away, man. I heard a very technical way of solving this problem. Ain't there a switch back there you can turn?
The mic was finally fixed, but the audience never quite made it. Some were rude to Gallagher, they yelled at him, and just were plain obnoxious. That plus the fact they'd been drinking. If the show had started earlier, some of those crowd problems might have been alleviated. The hecklers never topped Gallagher, though, but you could tell after a while it was aggravating him.
Don't yell out, please. I'm trying to think of what I'm talking about. When you yell at me, I'd listen to what you say, and then I don't have nothing to say. And who's smoking again? You are. Why are you sitting in front of everybody without a date and then showing them why?
Finally settled in, Gallagher hit on a variety of topics. He talked about owning a house, being an American, cowboys, television, buying tires, driving, and sports.
Behind me on this. How many people into snow skiing? You people scared? That's another predictable sport. You get up on top of a slippery mountain with sleds on your feet and you go down. Big deal. Try not to. Go up. That'd be a sport. Guy who gets in the cab and he says to the driver, "You got room up there for a six-pack and a pizza?" And the guy says, "Yeah." So he goes, "Blah."